for more on Europe's extreme weather events, we are joined by Maria Osbeck, UNICEF Regional Adviser for Sustainability and Climate, live from Norrköping, Sweden. Maria, thank you so much for joining us. So Europe has clearly experienced record-breaking heat waves, devastating wildfires and severe floods this year. So how serious is the climate situation compared with previous years?
Thanks for having me. Yes, as you said, Europe and Central Asia is warming faster than any other region in the world. And what we have seen this summer is unprecedented heat waves, wildfires, and air pollution that are putting children's health and well-being at risk. And what we know is that infants and young children are particularly vulnerable since they don't have the natural ability to regulate their body temperature in the same way as adults do. And also they don't have the same ability to keep hydrated that is so important during these heat waves that we have experienced. And we know that based on the UNICEF climate risk report, around 45 million children in Europe and Central Asia experience frequent, prolonged, and severe heat waves. And we have seen the impacts clearly. There are increased number of children reported by the health systems for having health-related illnesses. At the same time, we also know that schools have had to temporarily close. We know that teachers had to reduce their teaching hours because the classrooms have simply become too hot and it's unsafe for learning. And I think what's important to understand here is that what we see now is, and what's particularly concerning for children, is that children are exposed not only to one hazard, but to multiple hazards. We have, in Europe, we have had the heat waves, we have had wildfires, and we have had increased level of air pollution. And the impact of these different hazards, they exacerbate the impact on children. And this is what we see also globally, where we know that now about 1.1 billion children are experiencing at least 3 climate-induced hazards. And this is why we urgently need to start focusing on children in climate change adaptation and climate change mitigation. Because unless we do it now, we run the risk of having millions of children impacted by the impact of climate change, when we know that a lot of these impacts can actually be prevented. And that's why we urgently now see the need to focus on child-sensitive climate change adaptation.
And Maria, wildfires, droughts, and prolonged heat waves have forced hundreds of thousands of people, to evacuate. So what does that tell us about Europe's preparedness for climate-related disasters?
Well, it shows that climate change is impacting every child in the world, including children in high-income countries. And what we need to do now is to focus on 3 things. We need to have first data. Governments need to understand how is climate change impacting children and where are children impacted the most. And the UNICEF Children's Climate Risk Report includes data at national and subnational level demonstrating what kind of hazards and where are children vulnerable. So including this data now in in climate policies, strategies, and plans is urgently needed. And secondly, we need to, in addition to the data, also have a focus on children's rights in climate policies, plans, and strategies. And here we have some encouraging news that in comparison with the previous round of national climate policies, we see an increase in how governments are now acknowledging the risk of climate change on children, but also acknowledging how governments can mitigate the impact on children by recognizing the role of social services, including education, health, and social protection as key sectors that needs to be included in climate change adaptation and mitigation. And thirdly, what we need, in addition to recognizing these in policies, is also to mobilize the necessary investments. So we need to have tailored investments for social services. And this is, of course, not limited to Europe and Central Asia. This is a global need for all governments to consider to adequately protect children from the impact of climate change.